right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to April 2nd edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. End of Q1 is in the books. We'll talk all about it. The year feels like it's absolutely on fire. Rocket ship edition. I think they just launched a rocket to the moon for the first time in like 50 years. We'll talk about that. But anyway, housekeeping, we'll get it out of the way now, and then we'll get into all the good stuff. So, mspinitiative.com. We have a bunch of in-person events coming up here, literally around the corner. So I'm just going to rapid fire them off. And if you happen to be in the area and can join us, you're an MSP. We'd love for you to join us. We do community events for you. And if you happen to be going to any one of these conferences that we're working with, then this is on the event agenda, and we'd like you to join us anyway. So if you're headed to Enable Empower in 2 weeks in Fort Lauderdale, sunny Florida, join us there. We'll be there. We're on the schedule. We're doing a block party for the community. A couple weeks after that will be the Kaseya Connect Global in Las Vegas. All these names are fun. So that's in Vegas. So if you're coming to that, on the agenda, block party at the MGM, at the famous on-site, nightclub they have in the MGM. So we're looking forward to see you there. A little bit after that, we're headed to the European version of the Kaseya Connect Global. It's Kaseya Connect Europe, going to Prague. Yes, where the birthplace of the Pilsner beer. So they tell me. I also hear that Pilsner beer pint is less than $1. If you were tracking, but anyway, headed there, and then right after that, we'll be in Nashville, where for the Flow conference with the good people of Roost, who are the host of that particular one. And those are all the ones that are coming up between now and pretty much the end of June. Then we reset for the back end of the year, so stay tuned on that information, once we get closer to mid-year. So that's all of the housekeeping. Looking forward to seeing everybody in person. Just follow us online, but mspinitiative.com. A couple guests today. Both are not new to the show, which is great. We love people coming back and kind of checking back in. We have our friend Gerwai from Timezest, and industry veteran. You'll get into Gerwai's story in a little bit. And then CJ, Chris Johnson from GTIA rejoins us. He was like, "Hey, I'm free. You mind if I jump on?" Absolutely. Come on down anytime. So the more the merrier. So welcome to the show again. Um, Guys, obviously the topic seems to be, in every other conversation's AI. I had a couple things pop up in my feed that are like, oh, this is a perfect time to talk about this because I got two guys that have been around the block, and I always love everybody's feedback on current events. So let me throw a couple current events at everybody, and I love to get everybody's topic because then we'll go into all the other good stuff. So one is I saw an article literally from this morning on multiple, I'm just in the feed, and it says that Microsoft Copilot's terms of service labels Copilot is for entertainment purposes only, and says that it makes mistakes, it may not work as intended. Use Copilot at your own risk. Hmm. What do you think about that?
DJ, you want to take that one? I'm thinking that's a good softball for you.
I felt like is that like an April Fool's joke?
It's actually
Yeah,
listed
right.
as April 2nd, not 1st. I can copy. I'll share the screen if you like. But no, this looks like it's legit.
There's a lot of thoughts going through my head. I use Copilot every day. I I think it's garbage in, garbage out is part of the challenge here. I think that I'm sure every company at this point is at least talking about how they should or shouldn't use AI, even if they're not doing a good job with it. But I find it hard to believe that we've jumped to the conclusion that it's just for entertainment. I don't.
I scratch my head and I wonder why Microsoft would put that into their service agreement. But hey, I digress. It seems like it's there. You guys can go check for yourself. I would definitely be concerned if, especially now, MSPs are being, as the Microsoft partner, community, gets the messaging from the big guy coming downstream, right? Like, hey, this is now mainstream. Your customers need to learn how to use this in their everyday and this, that, and the other. That line gets me a little worried. I mean, how much do I put information in here and worry that this is not, in a good place? So I don't know. Just throw that out there. Saw it in the feed. Couldn't help but make a mention of it. Saw right behind it, Microsoft, same category here. And so if you're a WhatsApp user, I know that's more popular mostly out of the US than in the US, but it says, hey, there's a WhatsApp malware campaign delivering backdoors with user elevation, being delivered through WhatsApp. And I'm like, oh, well, I know a lot of people use WhatsApp, but maybe not domestically, definitely in Europe and some of the other parts. So there's a whole lot of conversation around things you can do to kind of control that. But I thought that's relatively new. So somebody's figured out a way to abuse that. Go check that out and figure out if that's a concern for you. And the last one I think is very interesting around the topic of news of the day. Back to AI, can't help it. Claude, apparently 2,000 internal files of, on the Claude source code were leaked by human error by one of their own engineers. So Anthropic accidentally releases part of internal source code for its AI-powered coding assistant. This was due to a human error. Oops.
Yeah, that's a big oops. Yep.
Yeah, like that's probably not good. It's funny when the big guy at the top of the food chain is also having problems, but I guess that nobody is immune. So current events of the day, couldn't help but bring that up. Literally saw it right as before I jumped on here. I was like, I'm curious what everybody thinks about all of this. So all that being said, we're going to bring it back into MSP world because I know we're not part of, we're just a small part of the bigger technology realm. And I got two guys who have been around the block here. So curious to see where today's conversation goes. Gerwai, for anybody that CJ's been on a few times here recently, so I don't think we need
Cool.
to super reintroduce him. But you haven't been on since last year. So for anybody who hasn't, run into you, know your story, just a quick background, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I appreciate it, George. I guess the starting point for anyone that cares about the MSP space and wants to like point their first association with it, for me was in 2008 when Arnie hired me on at ConnectWise to run sales. And that kind of launched me into this space. I'd been in technology before that. I was actually a banker out of college. I graduated in 94, did banking for about 5 years, and had a good friend that said, we need banking people in software. So in 98, I moved over to software, and I was in banking software for about 10 years. And it taught me, a lot of the ropes. I was there before Y2K, freaking out about Y2K, and nothing happened. That was weird. And then, got into the MSP space. So it's been a great run since then. So after '08, did a lot of different jobs at ConnectWise, and then moved on to exiting in 2019 when Tomo Bravo came along, and then went about founding my own businesses and starting my own stuff. So that's how Timezest started. There was a couple other founders that had kind of gotten the ball rolling before I got there, and I was the third one in effectively. And we've just had a lot of fun since 2019.
Awesome. Well, that's great. I mean, current, topic of the day, right? Like, you know, um, do all of the platforms that sit at the top of our sandbox, right? ConnectWise, you just mentioned, Kaseya, Enable, Ninja, and I can keep going on, but there's a lot of names there. Um, do people just decide to vibe code their way out of these, what foundation, tools, right? That
Yeah.
everybody's been using to run their businesses. Like, what do you think about that? Because I think people are imagining and going wild and burning through, credits on all these platforms. And I don't know if it's good, bad, if it's stable, if it's still working in a week from now, but they're surely trying it in a lot of cases. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, it's one of those really difficult challenges. I think number one, clearly, the possibilities are just tremendous right now. It's a new world. In the past, many of us, like I'm more of kind of on the business side of software. I put one line of code in production in banking software. I never put another line of code in my life. It was systems weren't working at 3 in the morning, and I had to get them going, and I was the only one available. I was running the team at that time. And what I tell you is that for someone like me, as an example, and maybe you, George, and you, CJ, that don't write any code, now that it's possible, it's like opened up this entirely new set of doors. And it's amazing. It's phenomenal. And it's working. I mean, I think that's a really interesting part about it. And the journey started with the code part being able to be written. But the really phenomenal stuff that's happening right now is that the systems, these AI bots, effectively agents, can also do the QA part. Now, just imagine that. You've got now an agent that can be a QA agent. You've got a coding agent. You've got potentially a management layer above that, a project manager or a product manager, something like that. And those agents are effectively building applications now. That is just mind-boggling to me. And then, you have moments where you're like, okay, is it garbage? Are they like building garbage? Is this stuff not working? Is there problems with it? And there's a lot of cases where they go off the rails. There's a lot of cases where they need to be guided and prompted and brought back in. And we've got context window issues where, the context window gets too big and then it starts losing sense of all knowledge it had. But I believe those are solvable problems. And so I think where we're going is to a pretty amazing place. But what I'd say is the phase that we're in right now, this moment in time, is that there are also a number of things on the other side of that. So those are the positive things about being able to vibe code these days. The negative things are, who is going to manage this thing? What happens when it breaks at 3 a.m.? Is this mission critical technology we're building, or is this just a fun little app to keep track of our SaaS apps that we use in the business? Like mission critical applications, you just have to make a tough decision there. Like, do you want your team to be responsible for fixing everything that goes wrong with that if it goes wrong? Or do you want to be able to turn to someone else that has 1,000+ other customers banging on this technology and this code base, helping make sure that it stays, really rock solid, world class? Or do you want to be going it alone in a forest? And so, there's debates. And I think in that debate, you can find yourself on either side of the fence. And I think you really, though, got to sit and think through. What are you getting into? What is the criticality of this application to your business? What will happen if something goes wrong? What happens if you get stuck? Like, imagine you go down what I'll call a dark alley and there's no way out of the dark alley. Like, for example, I'll just give you one example from my days. I've been, doing this almost 30 years now, right? On the software side of building software, QAing software, being a product manager. I've done every job in software to then be where I'm at today. And I believe that was really important. Like, we have to know what it takes to make the widgets. If you don't know how to make the widgets, how do you lead other people making the widgets? It's like mind-boggling. How do you do that, right? So what I have seen in that journey is that it takes a lot to build a world-class product. It takes a lot to build a product that won't go bump in the middle of the night. And one of the examples I have for you is, technology teams. Just imagine you and I are programmers, George. We have potential limitations in what we can do, right? We have experience challenges, we have ability challenges, we have all kinds of things that stack up to become this scenario where, imagine we're in the dark alley together trying to program our way through a problem. Not every programmer can program their way through the problem, right? To get themselves out of the dark alley, find the wall to walk through or the door to get through and then get out of that alley. And what I tell you is, imagine vibe coding something. It's mission critical. You're in a dark alley and now you have no way to get out other than hoping an automated agent is going to get you out of that dark alley. Mm-hmm. So that's another aspect of it, is if the human's not in the loop of that has programming experience and one that you can turn to and you can go, every time I've been in a dark alley with this person, they've helped get us out of this tragedy, right? They've helped code us out of this problem. They've helped problem solve the way to find the door. That is priceless. It's so important in what we do, and you just never know when you're going to get stuck. And so I think that's another layer of this decision making that needs to happen there.
I mean, there's a lot of reality to the big companies that do lots of layoffs, right? Like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, right? Like, these are really big companies. So when you look at the total organization versus that really big number, it's not an impossible, thing, right? Like it could be a very small subsection across all their departments. When you're talking about small companies, which I would say the majority of companies in our space are not thousands of employees,
Right.
what's, hundreds of employees, right? Or tens of employees. When you cut a handful of people all at once, that's a major change to what
Sure.
could be a small group of people. So like I'm concerned about people thinking, "Oh, I don't need that developer anymore, right? We can replace them with pick your favorite company." I think the other concern, and I don't think we're there yet, but I can't help but notice that these companies out there that provide this net new technology are still early days, and we're not at the point now where, you know, I mean, they're raising prices, but Microsoft raises their prices every year. What happens if they decide, hey, we need to 2x our prices? Like, because we have to start showing, profit to our investors. That could happen almost overnight, no?
Sure, but you hope economics kicks in, right? And people go, "Hey, that's overpriced. I'm moving. I'm going to something else. You're dead to me," kind of thing, right? Like they have
Sure.
choice. People have choice on what they buy, so that's
Yeah.
helpful. But I think the one that you hit on is actually really, really super important. With the first subject you had there, which is these big organizations, these enterprises are laying off big batches of people at once.
Mhm.
You and I have, like, I think a similar size team, right? Mine is 24. Yours is probably a little bit bigger
Yeah.
at Bvoip. How big are
Mhm.
you guys now?
43.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I've had to have this conversation with my team. I wonder if you've had it with yours, but we see all those headlines coming out, and I go, man, I just don't know how I'd ever do that. Like, what would cause me to go cut by that degree the team that I've built today? And so, you could argue, yeah, maybe you could find a way to do it, but I think when I kind of like broke it down, I think the calculus is different,
Okay.
massively different, right? You and I own private companies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a public company. Public
Yep.
companies get rewarded for saving money.
Yeah.
Public companies actually get rewarded for doing those kinds of things, which is really crazy to me. It's like the weirdest thing that you're effectively shareholders are incenting the CEO to fire people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's effectively what's happening there, right? But in our businesses, I think the calculus is entirely different. The calculus is, oh, wait a second, hang on. I don't have to hire at the same rate that I had to hire before. And I can supercharge this team that I've got to do maybe, one or I'm sorry, like 2x more than what we were able to do before.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a powerful place to be. That's an awesome place to be in. And I don't have to grow my payroll expense base. Oh, we're winning all day long right now. That is phenomenal. So I don't think of it as, from our perspectives, like a layoff thing. Like, why would we want to do that? Let's go optimize. Let's go do 2x more than what we did yesterday. Let's just be a stronger, better team with this small team that we've got and just be ninjas out there. That's what I think of. Like a SWAT team.
I'm with you. I agree with you. I think that's the right mindset. I'm a little bit worried where, if you go just down to the end customer perspective, it's why do you need the MSP? We can just instead of going to the MSP's knowledge base or go to Google, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT what the answer is to my problem, right? And
All right,
like,
CJ's got to take this one then. This is right up his alley, huh?
I don't know. It's accountability. I think at the end of the day, I was having this conversation last week. Who checks the code that AI writes?
the code of the code,
So
the
yeah,
agent of the agent.
yeah. I mean, and we even talked about like, oh well, there's like Code Rabbit or yeah, and then it can go in and like check and make sure your code's secure. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still not human evaluation. And we hear this all the time, like pen testing as an example. Is it truly a pen test if there's no human element to the pen test? And we can go down the rabbit hole on that one, but like
Mhm.
the point is like to what was said just a minute ago, it's like the ability to accelerate, the ability to do things faster, the ability to not have to hire more people. And I think, thinking about the larger enterprises where it's not just disruption, displacement, it's, axing entire staff, for a department. Yeah, I think that, yeah, there's the money side of it, but like look at how some of these companies grew. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you hiring 500 people to dial for dollars when the reality is there are some of those tasks that are now being addressed by AI and done so very, very well. And I think that the noise that we're all of it, and quite honestly, it's enterprise level noise, right? The SMB space that drives the global economy is like, good grief, do you see what the new job pool is to pull from now that all of these people have been laid off? I now have access to real people that I can look at and filter through to find people qualified for the jobs I need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, if you can afford them, but I would argue the dynamics are different now where like buyers versus sellers market, right? Like if they're all these 10,000 people just hit the job pool, maybe can't be as choosy.
Well, and how many of those were working 3 jobs anyway, right? You wonder, like, the world has gone to largely remote workforce, not going into the office. What do they call it? The water cooler employment check-in. So you go to the office just to stop by, get coffee or water, talk to somebody, and then leave. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, George was in the office yesterday. I saw him getting coffee, and that was the only time that George was in the office. We don't know what George does, but George comes to the office at least once a day. I
I don't
mean,
think
those
in a,
are those are
I
real
don't think,
challenges.
I don't think in a small organization that's going to work.
Fair, but at the enterprise
Yeah.
level, that's what's
Yeah.
been happening for a very long time with organizations that have, tens of thousands of employees. And, they're a number, they're a statistic. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think AI has really highlighted. I mean, we see it in the education space. It's coming, in second place, I think, to this. Why are there mass layoffs? We're finding out we had a lot of people that weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
I got a good one for you guys. All right. So my first job, I was a dishwasher, pancake pantry, 14 years old, just got my work permit. I was loving it, making $3.35 an hour, and it's minimum wage. And I had to punch in my timesheet into this
Yes.
machine. And like I had to punch it in when I came in, I had to punch it in when I took a break, I had to punch it in when I returned from a break, and I had to punch it in when I left for the day. Like that's the problem. They're getting the badge swipe, right, CJ? They're getting the
Yeah.
badge swipe. They come in, and then before you know it, it's really hard to monitor when they left the day. You can maybe watch cameras and stuff, but that's really hard to do. And so that's what's going on there, isn't it?
And the distractions of the overload of how we communicate with each other, right? The Slack and Teams and email. And it's like, hey, I'm starting to realize that I maybe am not as productive as I thought I was because I'm gravitating to that, whatever gives the gratification of the quick wins. And you have all of these things that get, I don't want to say abandoned, but they get slowed down. And I think what's interesting is how AI is shining a spotlight on some of those things. I remember, I think I forget, what is it, Viva Insights with Microsoft, and he's like, you had this many meetings this week. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, those really qualified as meetings, or was it interacting with a colleague, and you have to second you're questioning some of these things, and it's like, these are tools that can help us be, to your point, more efficient, get more done with less resources. And I think there's a lot of paranoia out there because we're gravitating to what happens in the enterprise space for job tenure. And the reality is there's so many opportunities right now that if we sit on the sidelines, then that's where we'll be 5 years from now, still on the sidelines.
That's
Agreed. And if you look at the enterprise companies that are watching those badge swipes, I mean, why not put your people in position to win, do good work, monitor them some other way, like
Yep.
watch their work product, you have good leadership, those kinds of things. It isn't impossible to understand what people are working on in a week. And to watch badge swipes and just say you got to be in the office 3 days a week is I think really challenging. And I think what's happening too, I see it in my own business. We started during COVID, and as you can imagine, the last thing you want to do is get an office during COVID. So we just
Sure.
kept going. We just kept going. We're 100% remote. It creates some unique situations that you have to manage through, but it's
Sure.
more than manageable. It is absolutely manageable. I think there's philosophy differences. I do recognize and feel the difference of collaboration when we're all in an office collaborating. There's an entirely different vibe, and there's just so many more collisions that happen. And I think that can be important for certain businesses. But I just think that at the end of the day, one could argue that, especially us as Americans, taking 2 weeks of time off a year and just like hardly focusing on family and and just grinding our bodies and minds out in business for so long, we are all so wired to perform. And I think there's a lot of detriment that has to our mental health and just who we are and so much. So I have found that work-life balance is important. Like my team gets to go to their kids' baseball games, and they can balance their workload in their personal lives and their days. And at the end of the day, as long as we got a work week's worth of work in a week, that's all that matters to me. We just got to get our work in. If you do it at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., wherever, because you took 3 hours that day to go to your child's baseball game at 2 p.m., so be it. That's the way work should be, in my
As long
opinion.
as
It's more
everybody
flexible.
knows, as long as yeah, like everybody knows that that's happening. Like
Yeah,
there's something.
there's ways to manage that. There's tons of ways to manage. Hey, I'm going to be out for 3 hours. I'm a big believer. Just block your calendar. Quite frankly, just block it out. We'll know that you're not available at that time to meet with people and teams and whatnot. Let your leader know. Go on from there about what you need to do to balance things. And I just think that I just remember all the times I go to the office in the morning, have some service at the house that I needed to deal with. I'd rush home to the house. I'd be there for a couple hours. There'd be 3 more hours left in the day. I'd drive back to the office. You know what I mean? I'd drive back at 2 p.m. to the office to then fight through traffic hour again that day, right? I was in commute time 2 hours that day effectively. Why didn't I just stay home the whole day? Why do
Right.
that? It's just not logical anymore. And quite frankly, the commute times a lot of us have had to deal with in our entire careers is just mind-boggling now to me. It's just such wasted time.
Nobody likes traffic.
Sitting looking at a
No.
windshield,
I don't think anybody likes traffic. Although,
Well, we're comparing. I mean, this is where I think it's funny to have this conversation about enterprise versus what's really the SMB, tens of employees, maybe 100 employees. We're comparing to the industrial revolution, right? Like, look at how many people we've had to add to the equation because now we need a foreman and a supervisor and
yeah,
so on and so forth. And what do? Well, they track to see that those that are on the floor are showing up on time and leaving on time, and we're not got too much overtime hours. We're still comparing largely, particularly more so in the enterprise space, though, to your point, is that we don't have to play by a predefined set of rules that were built 100 plus years ago.
yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, we've got to be creative. I think there's ways to solve the problem. Well, I'll give you another example of what I do. And George, it'd be great to hear some of yours. Like, so we're 100% remote. Are you guys 100% remote, George?
100% remote. Yeah.
Okay. So here's, I better not say this because I might make your team jealous. Should I say it? Are you okay with that?
Go for it.
All right. Okay. So as we started, it was like, okay, we have no office expense and we have no getting together, right? Like we're all virtual and we have some team members on the other side of the world. So before you know it, you're like, how do we get everyone connected? How do we form those bonds as a team that you need to play on the field together and trust each other and know each other? Like, okay, well, once a year, we got to all be together in one place in the world. And it started really simple. It started super cheap and easy. Miami, right? Drive for me, drive for a bunch of us. And our international colleagues flew in. We got a hotel there on the beach and had some business time the first day and then had plenty of fun time together at the end. And, that was pretty inexpensive. You get a hotel, feed people. It's not too bad, right? But then you have to start adding plus ones, and then you got to change the location. We went to Iceland with the entire team in plus ones. We've gone to Cancun. We're about to go to potentially Thailand. So, like, there are ways to be really creative about how you get teams together and create really memorable moments with each other that you wouldn't actually get when you're in the office together. I mean, I know office days, right? Like we maybe go grab drinks or a dinner or meal or something together once in a while, but this is a whole nother level. When you spend time in another country, foreign country for all of you, looking at ice, I mean, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, you should, for your people that are eligible, you should encourage them to get global entry and which gives them TSA pre-check and global entry
Yeah,
for 5 years.
there you
So
go.
so at least one thing that we like to do, and we do bring our people together, we try to once a year as well.
Good,
But
good.
we try and cover the cost of global entry, right? Even if they're not gonna use it, right? Like until you take them international, which we haven't done. But I'm back to the nobody likes traffic. Nobody likes standing in line at the airport. So
I like that.
there you go. There's my tip. Now let me flip
Does it
over. Go ahead.
Does it solve the visa problem too? Like we've had some people in countries that really have a real challenge to get their visas.
I don't know if it does. Like obviously as an American, I think Europe just turned on their version of like the ESTA, right? Like
Okay.
we've had it here and
Hmm.
for people coming into the US and now it's really a money thing, right? Like Australia's
Hmm.
had it's like $20, right, for a year. Like it's all automatic. You download an app, you press go, you get approved. Like just seems like it's people collecting a toll, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Never had a problem, especially with all the conference travel and stuff, right? With that. But apparently Europe, from what I read, just turned that on earlier this year. So now if you're going over, you got to just do this app, right? Go in, put your $16 in, and then you get your virtual, visa, right? So
Cool.
I digress. Customer experience. Let me go back to AI in the real world. So I paid my car off. I was at a real high mileage.
Congrats.
I'm just like, you know what? I don't have time to mess around with this, right? Like, I'm one of these people who, like, I gotta, I do not want to be a miss the meeting, miss the airline because my car broke down guy, right? So I try and set it and forget it, get a car, buy the maintenance plan, buy the warranty. I don't want to think about this thing for like whatever, however long my usually 5 year loan is. And so I started the process of looking for a car. Now, George, Mr. Let's make a deal guy, it's just how I'm wired. Like, I don't just go down to the place down the street, right? I'm shopping, the whole country, right? I don't need brand new. Don't want too old, maybe a year old, right? Couple, somebody that's pre-owned. And I start like trying to shop and negotiate and dealing with, all this, whatever. Man, the experience I had in the last month shopping for a car, scheduling appointments, trying to get pricing, talking to people, getting appraisals on my current car, whether I was going to sell it or trade it in, as it was really bad. Like when I tell you from the consumer or the buyer, the customer's experience interacting with clearly all these newfound AI space tools, it couldn't have been worse. It's like, and this is not the first time I bought a car. It's probably my 10th time buying a car. But my point is, like, I never felt, especially if I'm after something a little bit more premium, you expect that you're getting a premium experience. No,
Hmm.
opposite. I had appointments where I had it, the text reminder, the email reminder is in my calendar, Gerwai. I went to go show up. They're like, we don't know who you are. We don't have your appointment. We don't have your information. I'm like, this is your system. Like, it's like I booked it on your like whether it was email, whether it was a website, whether it was a chat tool. Like, okay, so should I just go home or what are we doing? Like, I can't tell you how many times that happened, and I can't tell you how many times I would go in and like I would have information that was given to me in an email, which clearly was made to look like it was a human being. And then when I finally got to a human being, they're like, oh, we can't honor this. I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is your email,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you set this price. I mean, if you're not going to honor what you're putting out there, why am I wasting my time? And that happened a lot, guys. I'm going to be honest with
Wow.
you. That was like it's again, I appreciate different like if I'm buying a Hyundai like versus I'm buying a Mercedes, like I probably expect a different experience, different clientele, different price point. I get it, but like this was pretty universal. Like it was bad.
So are you believing then that an AI agent gave you the quoted price and like a
Mhm.
human came in and overrode it?
So I'm telling you a legit experience. This is me personally.
Sure. Yep.
I went in, I had pricing on the car, on a specific VIN number, the warranty, the maintenance plan, the wheel, tire, dent, windshield, like all of it. And basically rolled in and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, we can't do this deal." And I'm like, "This is your information. Like, what do you
Whether
want
are
me to
they
do?"
rescinding it because an AI bot made a mistake, or are they rescinding it because a human made a mistake? Well, I'm
You
trying
know,
to figure that part out.
they didn't really clarify. They would just say, "Yeah, now that you're here, like, the numbers are different." And I'm like, to
Oh.
me, I experienced that as a bait and switch,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
I'm just
sure.
like, "Hey
Yeah.
guys, like, you advertised the price, we agreed on a price, I came in, and now, switcheroo, right? Like, that's never great. I don't care where you are. Like, I don't care what you're buying. I don't care if it's bananas or a car. But bottom line is that happened more than once. And like
Okay.
and to the point where it was almost like they were surprised when I pulled up the emails and showed them the documentation, and they were like, "Oh," and like it just definitely changed the tune.
Well, if it happened to be the AI agent giving you that quote and then the humans, discovering it, that to me is the fundamental problem we're kind of running into today. This is the phase we're in right now, is that the human has to be in the loop of everything, right? There isn't a Tesla being built today with full self-driving that doesn't give you a steering wheel to take over. And all technology we build today with these agents has to have the same mentality. You let an AI agent get out in the world, free reign, not thought through. Before you know it, it's going to say something to the wrong person the wrong way and upset customers, just like what you're experiencing right now. So I'm not sure if that's the source of it, but that's been one of my fundamental beliefs, is that in this phase we're in right now, in this moment in time, you cannot trust AI to roam alone. It has to be supervised. It has to be watched. It has to have a human in the loop in all cases. And so, good luck with that, man. I sure hope the rest of your
I mean,
week and
I
your month
eventually,
goes better.
I eventually got something,
Mm.
bought a car in, Georgia and drove it home. But when I
Okay.
told you, like, I flew in to buy a car, I had a set appointment, and like I spent like 5-ish hours getting through this, right? Like every turn was, that's not right. That's not what's in writing. That's not what we agreed on. Like everything, the whole process. Like it definitely made what should have been a pretty turnkey buying experience into clunky, clunky, clunky. And, again, like back to customer experience, right? This is always, I feel like everything's cyclical in every industry, right? It's like best price, cheapest price, best experience. It's okay if it's not that great. Like, I don't think that we should ever sleep on that. And like, I got to be honest with you, the marketing of, oh, this is so great, everybody's going to love it, it's going to save you a bunch of time and money, to will your customer even like not even like it, tolerate it,
That's
guys?
right.
Like,
That's
will
right.
they even
Yep.
say
That's
it's
right.
okay?
Yep.
Like, there's a
Yep.
big differential there.
Yeah. Well, here's what I believe, and you may appreciate this. Imagine I'm the end customer. Your MSP has just sold me a contract, and you sold me under what I'll call the legacy model, which is humans are involved. I can email somewhere, go to a portal, phone
Hmm.
calls, and engage your help desk. Um, if tomorrow, for your own cost savings, you go change that business model on me,
Hmm.
I'm not sure I'm too happy about that. Like, I sure hope you talk to me first when you go like, hey, there's another way to get support from us, and not force me down a particular channel or path to get that support. Now, I think that's how most people are doing it. But I think that that's a really important step, because I think one of the things that a lot of us business owners do is, oh, I can save money.
Hmm.
I can get a little bit more profitability, which is actually, in the end, it doesn't mean that I'm taking home that money, but it makes my business healthier. I can handle an economic downturn. I can make sure payroll is made. I can have a little more breathing room with that cash saved up in the business bank account, right? So there's a good reason for it. But if we're constantly just chasing profitability, and like you're saying, not thinking about the customer experience, I think that's when things get really dangerous real fast. So here's another one for you. You mentioned this earlier. Why don't SMB customers just start going to GPT and asking it questions to do their own tech support, right? Like that's pretty logical. But the funny thing is like every time I've done that, I found a couple of cases come up. Number one, if this particular problem I'm dealing with has never been documented, how the hell is it going to know?
Hmm.
It's not going to know. There's no way to know. If it's not documented somewhere on the open internet effectively, these LLMs won't know. Now, some of these teams are doing more around that. They're hiring professionals like legal professionals, IT professionals, and forcing training into the brain, right? Like they're forcing knowledge into the LLM that it doesn't exist in the open internet, like a knowledge base for Microsoft or something like that. But at the end of the day, it isn't complete. That's the number one thing. On all IT problems, all combinations of IT problems, it isn't complete. So that's the first issue. Second issue I found, which I found really, really interesting, and I'd love to know if you guys have both run into this too. I'll be asking it a question, like, Windows 11. I'm on Windows 11, asking it a question. I probably need to prompt it, tell it I'm on Windows 11, but it gives me Vista settings back. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, what is happening right now? Like, shouldn't you at least default to the most modern OS that's going on? Like, so when you get into these systems and you start asking it troubleshooting questions, you start asking it, hey, what settings do I need to go to change this issue or fix this issue? And it gives you settings from last year or 2 years or 3 years ago. That's not helpful. It's really just taking me down a rabbit hole. And I find that that's a waste of my time. So one day, maybe it'll all be figured out. And for every single, what I'll call pretty basic IT problem, it'll have a response for us. It'll give us an answer. And it'll be current settings, or we'll be able to direct the version we're on and tell it what settings for that particular version. Maybe one day it'll get that good. But today, I have no trust that me as an SMB business owner can expect an AI agent to give me all of my IT answers.
Okay, that's fair. I hope that the person asking the free version of the tool is expecting that too, because
Yeah, right. That's even worse on the free
I,
version.
I
Sure.
think that's the problem, right? Like, I've talked to a lot of MSPs very recently who are like, our tickets are being opened up with the output of what the chatbot's giving it back from GPT. And like the techs on their side are like, what are you actually, what's the problem? Like, I'm trying to understand exactly what you're working backwards from, because there's so many things in your ticket open. I don't understand what your issue is. And like, you can tell it's copy and paste. And
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
there's a systemic problem here, and this has been the always problem. What is the quality of the notes that a technician keeps with
Horrible.
regards to solving problems? Fixed it
Horrible.
if you got that much note, right?
Hmm.
So you got that problem that still needs to be addressed. And I think AI helps with that because it can capture the auditory, or maybe it captures what you did on the computer, and it can create notes for that. But the second one is, and I think this one is just as important, we predominantly solve for so I can keep doing what I was doing. We're not necessarily spending much time on trying to solve root cause.
Hmm.
If we did more energy into root cause being solved for, we would have a whole lot less net new tickets being open for really what is the same problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point.
listen, I'm with you. I mean, here's the reality, right? If I go backwards, let's say you're an MSP that's been around for a while, 10 years. All right. Let's say you've been around for 10 years. If I use one of these new Val tools to go in and try and categorize, the trends over a specific period of time, the types of issues, the customer volume, that kind of stuff. To your point, CJ, like, if the information is half baked, like
Yep.
the output's going to be bad. So I would argue that all of the tools that you're buying don't help you historically until you start creating new information correctly today. So like going backwards probably doesn't, it probably hurts you, not helps you then, right? And
Isn't that
so,
largely all of the AI space right now? Humans created it to
mhm,
solve for human problems.
mhm,
And the human problems that we're trying to solve for, we're still not committed enough to ensure that the information we are giving it is useful.
100%. So back to,
Yeah.
so Gerwai, this is right down your alley. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to roll all this into customer experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
my customer wants the VIP experience, but they want it fast. They want it when they need help versus whenever you're available. And they want it to be not, um, and again, that's the best way to say it. I could be the Walmart customer service counter, okay,
Sure.
which may not always go well, right? Could be pretty bumpy sometimes depending on where you're at. Or do I want the, you know, um, Chipotle checkout experience or the Chick-fil-A drive-through I always use? Because I mean, I've
Yeah.
never had a Chick-fil-A drive-through experience that's been bad. So, like, how do I make sure that my customer who thinks that they're paying a premium price, we can argue that sometimes they're not, but they think they are, is getting a level of service where they're like, yep, I feel good about continuing to pay this guy versus, nope, I don't need to use these guys anymore. I can figure this out on my own.
Well, maybe I should share something we've been working on, and it'll help give some perspective on what we've had to solve for recently. I've, for the longest time, we've been a scheduling product, right? Like help get tickets where we need to be within customer schedules, send them a scheduling link like Calendly and make it book really nice and easy into people's PSAs and their calendars. And if you think about that function, sometimes it gets relegated down to a tech because the dispatch team is overwhelmed or there's no one doing dispatch or it's rotating role or whatnot. But a lot of times it can get relegated down to techs. It's truly a dispatch function. If you imagine the best way to operate, techs wouldn't be spending time on scheduling with a client in any way, right? They'd just be working on issues all day, teed up one at a time, perfectly teed up. And so what we have been working on is, okay, we started with scheduling, that's part of dispatch. Well, what else does dispatch do? Well, they triage tickets and then they do ticket dispatch, right? They make sure that the tickets are being dealed out to teams properly all day long. And, when you think about that, number one, it fits into that concept of if we can do some automation there, guess what? We've got humans with a steering wheel, right? Like we're not out in front of customers, potentially hallucinating in front of a customer. We're working internally with the tech team. The tech team can say, you guys are hallucinating. This isn't the right answer. Override it, teach us, learn, we can fix those kinds of problems. Like a type, subtype, and item wrong on a ticket, we can fix that.
Okay.
Right. A human can see it. They can oversee it. They can be in the loop. They can double check it. They can be our QA source. But they didn't have to go through all the cognitive load of like reading a whole ticket. And then based upon paragraphs and paragraphs of information, like, oh, it's this type, subtype, and item for this ticket, right? Like that's a lot of cognitive load on a dispatcher or whomever's doing that job wearing that hat, right? So I think, but to your point, guys, like you're right. There's a couple of things that we run into. An issue can come in free form in email, all right? Like you can say as little or as much as you want. It's a real problem with AI. If you come in one email and say, hey, I've got 3 issues, so here's the 3 issues, guess what? We're going to choke on that a little. Like, well, what type, subtype, and item do we put on this ticket? Do we make child tickets? Do we break it into multiple tickets? Like, what do we do now? Like, this is not easy. So a lot of us now and on our side of the world are kind of saying, well, let's try to figure out the most critical of these 3 issues, right? And maybe note to the tech team that there's multiple issues in this ticket. You're going to have to go figure out what you want to do with it. That's a good example of human in the loop. Like, let the human decide. You take it as far as you can. Stop. Don't do any damage, but tee them up to make a human decision about what to do with this ticket. So I think it's not such a bad outcome. But, to the point of all the garbage data, one of the things that we've done is we've said, okay, we've got this garbage data. We've got all these time entries that may not make a whole lot of sense and so forth. And we've got effectively people that have worked various kinds of tickets all along. We got to try to figure out who's got the skill to work this ticket, to do ticket dispatch, if you think about it, right? And so we're like, okay, well, what do we do here? Like, you kind of got to, sometimes you got to live with the data, meaning you've got to say, okay, George has always worked these tickets. CJ's always worked these tickets, whether the garbage data is there or not. I got to like accept that these are the kinds of tickets they worked and just pair you up with it. But then let another human in the loop aspect is like, let a service manager go, hey, George keeps getting these tickets he shouldn't be getting. Why is he getting them? Well, your model's wrong. Okay, well, we'll let him shift it. We'll let him like adjust it. Let the human direct it, train it, and have the flexibility to do that. So here's what I'll share with you. This industry has been doing a lot of things a certain way for a long time. And I think I've been fortunate enough to be a super curious person. And so what that causes me to do, I've never worked in an MSP, right? Never once. But I've seen over 1,000 in how they operate. And I've been able to watch all the patterns. I've been able to watch and see how, configurations of how they are in pods sometimes. Sometimes they're tiers, how you manage a ticket all the way through from triage to closure, soft closes. Why do we do a soft close, right, George? Why do we have a service manager review a ticket before it gets hard closed? Like all these things, Arnie like feed into my brain pretty good. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was great learning, And so I think what's really important for us to recognize is we are at a moment in time where the way we used to do things may not be the right way to do it anymore. And that imagine an Arnie Bellini 30 years ago building this process, which this whole industry does today pretty much all 98% of this industry does the push method. Tickets come in, a dispatcher gives out those tickets to a tech, 10 to 15 of those tickets a day. You go work those tickets, go figure it out, maybe in a specific order, maybe they get to pick the order, but they got to go work those tickets. They've been pushed a bunch. And then before you know it, you're pulling tickets back because something changed in the day. You got to like priorities change, and it's just thrashing, quite frankly. But there was no better way. Arnie built the best thing he possibly could, basically a to-do list in the calendar, right? The reality is, with the technology we have today, there is a better way. And I think those are the open-minded parts we have to have about this, is like, what new doors does this unlock if we make sure we build it the right way with humans in the loop to reinvent the way we used to do something? That's what I believe is possible now. So, but we have to do it in a safe way. We have to be thoughtful about it. We have to think about the garbage in, garbage out. We got to think about all the things you guys are talking about, you know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm all for use the tools available to you to be better, right? I mean, I'm all for it. I just, my mindset 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, coming from what you just said, right? This is the way, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to learn
Yep.
from everybody that's been successful instead of learning the hard way. Okay. I feel like like there could be like a shock to the system in a way where, if you lose a customer because the experience didn't go well and they didn't get what they needed when they expected to, or they got a very automated experience that didn't get them to a result and they couldn't get to a human being when they wanted to, it's a lot harder to replace that customer with a new customer.
Absolutely.
Like, so if we, one thing hasn't changed, you should be able to talk to an existing customer easier than talking to a prospective customer.
Right.
So
Yeah.
my best advice to everyone is, and I think I'm rolling back to what we talked about in the beginning of this, whole show was, hey, expand your, time allocation so that you can do more with the same amount of people, rather than, hey, I'm going to cut and then try and, slim down, because you're already at a small enough point where that one person does make a difference. That two people in your
Yeah.
organization does
That's
make a
right.
difference. And you know what? It sounds good when you're like, well, if I lost a customer, but then I also cut my expenses down because I have one less body, then it all kind of, meshes out. And I'm like, yeah, at the first that may look like that, but if that dominoes into a larger conversation, that's hard to fix at a
It's a
small.
dangerous game. Yeah, dangerous game to be in, for sure.
So that's my, like, make my car buying experience a lot better. That's what I'm asking for, right? Like, do not make me waste my time flying to another state and give me a whole half day of nonsense because your AI
you,
blew up.
you do have to help me with something, okay,
Go ahead.
George?
Go ahead.
How does a Philly guy get out, get into Georgia, and then out of Georgia with a new car? Like, how does that happen? Well, especially with all this
It's like a
frustration on your
border
shoulders.
crossing.
I know. I know. I
Well,
know. Well,
yeah.
it wasn't the first time, so that helps, right? I knew what to do. I knew what needed to be done, right? Like, that's important. So that's number one. Number two is like, hey, and this isn't, this is not a new idea, but it's like, hey, be willing to take a flight and go home then, right? If it doesn't work
Okay.
out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
walk away, go back to home and start over again. And like, I was prepared to do that,
All
but
right. Good. Good.
at the end of the day, a car did come out of there, and
All
like,
right. Good. All right.
and I saved a ton of money when it was all said and done, which is good.
All right. Well, good for you. I'm glad it all worked out as smoothly as possible. Let's call it that, huh?
You're right, exactly. At least, knock on wood, I didn't get pulled over, so that's good. I did stop at Bucky's though. That was pretty,
Nice.
All
gotta
right.
get your Bucky's trip in. All right, guys, check out Timezest, which apparently does more than just the time zesting now, which is great. We learned some of that here on this episode. Timezest.com, right? That's the
Yep.
website for that. Awesome. Gerwai, if you haven't, like, how Gerwai, well, I want to find this guy. How do if you're listening to the audio version of this is how Gerwai spells his name, right? Gerwai, right? You probably like,
You
oh, I
got it.
wouldn't have figured that out phonetically. That's cool. Now you know, right? You can search for Gerwai online. He's easy to get to. Talk about a guy who's been around the block, right? 1,000 MSPs he's seen running. That's good information. Maybe you have a question for him. Hit him up. So other CJ, I assume we'll have you on between now and GTIA San Diego event, right? Which is in, I think, is it June or July? Oh, it's August.
August.
First couple of days of
It's like
August.
the first few days of August. Yeah.
Cool. So that's in San Diego. If you're like, oh, San Diego in August, that could be cool. So just Google GTIA ChannelCon San Diego. It'll come right up, first hit. I just did it for the show. Might want to, like, if you haven't thought that far out into the calendar, it's probably not a bad place to be at in August, San Diego. So check it out. Might be interesting if you're an MSP industry event. I think it's new and improved. So worth a second look there. For everyone else, thanks for stopping by. This session was recorded. We're going to have it on all the feeds, YouTube and the podcatchers and all that stuff. Like, subscribe, download, share. MSPinitiative.com. We'll park it there as well. Guys, thank you very much for coming on, and catch you on the next one.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right. Bye.